Welcome back, everyone, to Coachology in 20, where we learn Coachology concepts or coaching concepts in 20 minutes every Monday. If you're tuned in, please say hi. Let me know you're here. Let me know where you're tuned in from. Get ready to ask your questions. If you're a new coach, get your notepad ready, get your tablet ready, however you like to capture notes, and get ready to learn something new today. If you're an experienced coach that's tuned in, let's use the wisdom in the room. Let's share your thoughts on the concepts as we go through Coachology concepts today. And today we're going to be building on what we covered last week. Last week we looked at the 4 C's of trust. And this fits nicely into today's topic, which is 10 rapport builders for coaches. Now, if you're a Coaching Minds coach, this should be a bit of a recap for you. I might go in a little bit deeper into some of the topics in some of the rapport builders, so you might learn something new. If not, share your thoughts, share your questions. So 10 rapport builders for coaches. How do we build rapport with our clients? Now let's take a look. But before we get in, I've got a question for you before we start. And that is, how do we define rapport? Let me know in the comments box. How do you define rapport? We hear it a lot in the coaching profession when we're learning, when we're studying, when we're at networking events. We need to build rapport. But before we look at how we build rapport and create rapport, we first need to understand what it actually is. What is it that we're talking about? So I'd like you to put it in the comments box below. How do you define rapport? How do you define rapport? Whilst just sharing that, I'm going to go into our definition here at Coaching Minds of rapport. So rapport indicates a harmonious relationship, how in tune we are with our client. And rapport might come naturally to some of us. Some of us might just be really great at getting into a room with individuals, making them feel safe and comfortable and ready to open up with us. Some of us, it might take a little bit of time. It might be difficult for us to get into a room and for people to naturally gel with who we are. But if that is you, if you struggle to build rapport instantly, if you struggle to build harmony and look at how in tune you are with your clients, then don't worry, this session is for you, because we're looking at 10 ways in which you can start to build rapport. And as we go through these 10 rapport builders, I want you to share your thoughts, share your questions, and I also want to note down which ones you want to take away and work on over the next week. Because rapport is the most important point or important part of the coaching relationship. It doesn't matter how skilled you are, how great you are asking powerful questions, how much of a good listener you are, although some of these are rapport builders, you'll not get far and you'll not build your coaching practice and you'll not get success with your clients unless you build a deep level of rapport. So at that point where we're in tune with our clients and everything just feels naturally and flows. So as I mentioned, some of us might be doing this, might be really great at building rapport, just get into a room with us, and how we connect, it's automatic. But if not, then these 10 rapport builders we're going to go through today, right now, will help you build rapport with your individuals, with your clients. So you can see we've got Razan tuned in. Razan saying, aiming to be a safe mirror. Beautiful, I love that. Prioritizing truth over comfort. Very, very important. That's something else I'm going to touch on today. Thank you for sharing that, Razan. And building enough trust so that when you eventually challenge their limiting beliefs, the relationship expands rather than breaks. I love that, Razan. It's really important that how we challenge our coaches. It's one of the rapport builders today. We call it healthy challenge here at Coaching Minds. How we challenge our clients is very important. We can make or break the relationship. But equally, we can also break the relationship if we're too fearful to challenge, if we're scared to step in and help the client make progress. Sometimes we can mistake politeness with kindness. We believe we're being kind, but what we're actually being is polite. And by not having those honest truths with our clients, we're not helping them move forward. So thank you for sharing that, Razan. I'm going to touch upon a few more of those points as we go through the 10 rapport builders. But first of all, we looked at this last week, is trust. And we looked at the 4, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. We looked at the 4 C's in a full session last week. How we build trust with our clients is through care, competency, credibility, and consistency. We need to show care towards our clients. We need to be confident in what we're doing. We need to have credibility with the right credentials, and we need to be able to meet the expectations of the client or exceed them if we want to be that next level coach. And we also need to be consistent with how we show up. So the first rapport builder to help build that connection, that relationship with our clients is trust. I can see we've got Donna tuned in saying hi to everybody. Donna, it's wonderful to see you here as always. Thank you so much for tuning in. So we covered that last week. If you want to explore trust, you can visit our session 7, which we covered last session, where we went really deep into trust. But expand on that today, the second important rapport builder is flow. What we're talking about here is the flow of the conversation, the flow of the session. We are going to damage rapport if the session becomes a little bit sticky, a little bit challenging. We don't know the direction in which to take it. We don't know what questions that we're going to ask next. If the conversation becomes stuck, then this is going to damage rapport. We need to find a way to have that natural flow, that natural conversation that moves the client forward. So flow is a very important part of rapport building. Ask yourself this: how much does your sessions flow with your clients? How fluent are they when you're talking with your clients on a one-to-one basis? Is this something that you need to work on today? Put it in the comments box. Let me know how you feel. How would you score yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 with a natural flow of your coaching sessions? And if you're learning, growing, developing, it's natural for it to happen that sometimes we get stuck in the session. Sometimes we don't know what question to ask. Sometimes we might be distracted by our mind chatter, that we lose track of the conversation. But if we really want to get to a deep level of rapport, we need to get to that point where we can just flow in the session. The session flows naturally and it moves forward. So that's rapport builder 2. Rapport builder 3 is active listening. And we're going to do a whole session on listening because there's 5 different levels of listening. Level 4 is active listening. But if you really want to be a true coach that is really present with our clients, we need to move to level 5, which is deep listening. But for the purposes of building rapport, active listening is enough. What do we mean by active listening? It means we listen to listen. We don't listen to respond. Now, if you think of your normal conversation with your friends, with your family, with your colleagues, whenever somebody mentions something, maybe they're just talking to you about going on a trip to Spain, maybe they went to Barcelona, they went to Madrid, maybe they went to the Sunshine Coast, wherever it is, and something sparks in your memory, you've been to Spain, you're waiting for a moment to respond, you're waiting for a moment to share your experience, you're waiting for a moment to share your stories with regards to that place or that content or whatever it is that they're sharing with you. When we look at active listening as a coach, we are there, we're listening to build rapport. We are not there to listen to respond. We are listening to information and we're not going to bring any experience or anything in terms of our assumptions, bias or judgment into that space. We're holding the space and we're listening to listen, not listening to respond. Donna's saying here, it's okay to ask them to repeat what they said for clarity. 100%. We can always ask clarity questions so we fully understand. That's very important to build rapport. We must not just, there's a place where we can come from where our ego creeps in here, Donna. So thank you for sharing this, where we think, I'm just going to try and piece it together. I don't want to ask them a clarity question because I might look a little bit incompetent. We need to get past that. Clarity questions are fine. And if we really want to build rapport, we need to truly understand the information and the context that the client is sharing with us. So we're going to go into a full session on the different levels of listening and how you can move into a place of listening to listen, which is active listening. And then beyond that to a level 5 listening, which is listening at a deep or empathetic level, where we try and put ourselves in the shoes of our clients and we're fully present in the process. So that is active listening. Number 4, in terms of rapport building, is our effective questions. So bringing in what Donna just mentioned there, clarity questions are fine. Clarity questions are the only questions that we can ask that are closed as a coach. If we're asking a series of closing questions, which are or questions that have answers only yes or no, then we are probably leading our client to a specific answer. We're not opening up the client. We're going to be limiting the flow of the session. So it's not going to build if we're not asking effective questions. So we can ask clarity questions. We can ask open questions. We can ask scaling questions. So I always ask you guys a lot of scaling questions here when I'm live. When I say rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 on how effectively you ask questions. That's what's known as a scaling question. So you can get a measure for how you feel. And as a coach, we can help move them forward to help them develop and increase their rating. The other types of questions we can ask as effective questions I mentioned are open. That's your how, where, why, what, when. So that's your how, why, what, where, when. I'm just repeating myself there. But that is your open questions. You can also use hypothetical questions. That's a great way to put the client out of their current context, out of their current perspective, into a whole new perspective so they can see the situation from a different place. We often refer to this as the helicopter view. How do we give them that bird's eye view of the situation through a question that we ask? We covered the miracle question a couple of sessions ago. Miracle question is if they had a magic wand or a miracle happened overnight, what would they notice that is different? So these are all effective questions. But essentially, when we're looking at building rapport, it's all about asking questions that move the client forward, move the conversation forward, not the ones that keep it stuck or get us to a dead end. And what I mean by dead end is where we've run out of questions as a coach. We don't know what to ask next. We might have to backtrack. Donna's also saying here, this is harder than we give it credit. To listen requires different responses between being a coach and being a friend. 100% it requires different responses. We need to not lead as well. And it can just be difficult. If we've got a lot going on in our lives, people really underestimate how skilled we have to be as an effective coach to really be present and to really listen to our clients. We've got things going on in our mind, things that just happened before we got in the session, mind chatter, lack of confidence, self-doubt, self-belief. All these can interfere with us actively listening. And like I said, we're going to go deeper into listening. We're going to go deeper into presence. We're going to be covering different concepts every week. We've only got 20 minutes this week. And we're going to focus on the 10 rapport builders for coaches. So that is effective question. Number 5 is encouragement. And this is a really important one to note as a coach. I get asked questions around this a lot, especially when we're looking and assessing our coaches. There's a big difference between I hear you and I agree with you. So we can encourage our clients. We can ask them how they're going to celebrate. We can congratulate them for the great progress that we're making. That is fine. That's encouragement. We cannot collude with them. We cannot agree with what it is they want to do. We need to step away from agreeing with their plans of action, questioning, challenging their plans of action. So remember this, if you take one key point with regards to encouragement, it's that there's a difference between I hear you and I want to celebrate this space with you for the progress that you've made, and I agree with you or I collude with you in terms of the direction that you're going. So encouragement is very, very important. It helps build rapport. When you have a client that's achieved things, it's a big deal for them, and they're coming and they're sharing that exciting news. We don't want to be sat there saying, okay, right, next, what's the next task? What's the next? We need to give them that engagement. Well done, congratulations, that's really fantastic. What's your next move? How are you celebrating this? How are you getting out there? Giving that energy and that encouragement can really boost the rapport and keeps the energy of the coaching conversations going forward really, really high. The next is curiosity and interest. So this ties nicely into K with regards to the rapport builder trust. We covered this last week, but it's important that we show interest in our clients' goals. We're asking curious questions. Tell me more about that. That sounds really exciting. Tell me more about this. Tell me more about that. What is it going to mean for you if you achieve this goal? Showing interest and care and curiosity is a big rapport builder in coaching. So that's number 6. I'm not going to go into detail again because I covered this as part of trust in our last session. Number 7, one that a lot of coaches forget, is that our conversations need to have a defined purpose. It's great to do our contracting, to cover our ethical points, everything's strictly confidential, where I'm an MCC, credit coach, or whatever, all the ethical points at the beginning, but we can tend to skip the actual purpose of today. So we might ask them, okay, we talked about this last session, what do you want to cover today? And coaches will leave it at that. But we need to understand the benefit from the session. So in this hour that we've got together, what is going to make this effective or valuable for you? We need to ask a question around the purpose of the hour or the time that we have with the client, so we can then measure that at the end. So this is a great place to put in some scaling questions. So you might have a client that comes in, you want to help them work with their productivity, you might want to help them work with a current goal, and we can just do a temperature check every session. How are you currently feeling with regards to the progress of this goal right now? They might say, I'm at a 6. Okay, how can we use this time together, this 60 minutes we have together, to get you to at least a 7? This helps the client set a defined purpose for that session, which is really important for us so we can track and measure the value that we're given as a coach through our conversations. As I mentioned, coaches often miss this off. We assess a lot of coaches here at Coaching Minds as part of their certification accreditation, and we see this defined purpose of coaching sessions missed at the very beginning of each session. They're great with terms of the contracting after the discovery session. You can get a defined purpose. You know what the client wants to work on. You know how they want to progress. You know their challenge. You get all that. Then you forget to do that little piece at the beginning of every session so you define the purpose and what you're going to achieve together throughout that session. And it really builds rapport, because the moment you can show how you're measuring and how valuable you are as a coach, the more the client feels it, the more you feel it, the more good energy that's in that space to help move the client further forward. Back to what Razan mentioned, healthy challenge. Now, we need to be able to challenge our clients. We can't just be polite. We can't just sit there and agree with everything that they're doing, or not question or challenge what they're doing. Or maybe you've got a client that's promised to do this, this, and this, and it's your 4th week and they still haven't done this, this, and this. How do you challenge them? You can't just let them go on, not committing, not changing. You need to be able to challenge them in a healthy manner. What do I mean by healthy manner? Going back to what I mentioned earlier on, in a way that doesn't break the rapport. If you come in a way that's interrogating, why haven't you done this? What's stopping you? Why can't you go forward? We've been here for 4 weeks. You're not doing anything. That is not a good way to healthily challenge your clients. How do we take a step back? How do we approach it in a softer manner? And granted, some clients will want it a bit stronger. So a great piece of advice that I give to coaches is always ask the client how strong they want you to be in their challenge on a scale of 1 to 10. So for example, you haven't committed to progressing with this report over the past 2 weeks. We've been here for 3 weeks. I'd like to challenge you on this. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you like me to challenge you? 10 being really strong and really direct, or 1 being quite soft and more of approach. So we can understand how the client likes to be challenged, not to break the rapport. And then we ask and we healthily challenge. So you've promised over the past 7 weeks that you're going to achieve this goal. Can you tell me what's getting in the way? What's happening? Is this goal suitable? Do you want this goal enough? I can see we've got some daft comments in the room, so I'm just going to delete this comment and move it out the way. Again, there's no such thing as stupid questions, just stupid people. So if you do put daft things in the chat, I'm just going to remove you. But healthy challenge is very important. How we approach, how we ask them how they'd like to be challenged is very, very important. Don't break the rapport. Take that approach. That is number 8. Going on to number 9. Client-led. So we talked about this earlier on. It's what makes a coaching conversation is a conversation that is client-led. The client must set the agenda. There's a big misconception of what coaches do, in that we should go to the session, we should go to our coaching conversations and have the answers, provide advice, provide the structure, provide a framework, move the client through some form of structural model. We don't do that as a coach. As coaches, we don't give answers, we ask questions. Yes, the client's looking for the right answers, but they're not asking the right questions. We're never going to get the right answer if we ask the wrong questions. So as a coach, we're here to ask the right questions and keep the session client-led. So the client brings in their agenda, they bring in their experiences, and everything remains on the client. We don't share experiences, we don't share our advice, we don't judge the client, we don't bring assumptions. We're going to talk about this next week when we look at breakers. But it's very important that the session remains client-led. And finally, number 10, one that sits right on the fence that we have to be really careful with is humor. So if we are in a place where we can have a joke, we can have a laugh with our clients, then we've reached the deepest level of rapport with connecting with someone. But this comes with a risk, because one slight joke, one thing that's said that's inappropriate in terms of what you find funny that's not aligned with their humor can break what's maybe taken you months to build, can break in seconds. So humor is an example that we've met that really deep level of rapport, but we have to be really careful and mindful of it, because it's also one of the biggest, if not the most, risk in terms of rapport breakers. So you have to be really careful with humor. This is one I had to adapt. I'm quite a jokey person. I like to use a lot of wit and a lot of jokes, and you have to know when to use that and when is the right setting and the right approach. So I tend to take myself back when I'm live and also when I'm with my one-to-one sessions as well. Donna says, this helps to move an abstract goal to a concrete one. I'm guessing that's back to the defined purpose, 100%. So, we can think we've done enough with a defined purpose because we've gone through the SMART model. We've got the goal, the outcomes of the overall kind of contract, coaching contract that we have with the individual, but we need to set that purpose for every session. We need to get there into the room with the client to say, right, I'm here, you're here, this is what we're here to achieve together. And that avoids us falling to that place where we're just having a conversation for an hour. We have the same conversation again with them the next week, the same conversation the week after. We need to be able to move that client forward. It needs to be able to flow. We need to have a defined purpose for every session, not just for the overall coaching contract. So thank you for sharing that, Donna. Really, really appreciate it. Now, I just want to ask you, this is not a definitive list. It's not an exhaustive list. There's many other rapport builders out there. This is just the 10 that we teach here at Coaching Minds. But what's one rapport builder you use that isn't on the list? I'd like you to drop it in the live chat. You've got Gubby tuned in. Hi, bro. Thank you so much for being here, Gubby. Great to see you. Thank you for your support and your message. What's one rapport builder you use that isn't on this list? Drop it in the live chat. And whilst you're doing that, I'm going to come back to the comments in a second. I've got some self-checking questions for you to take away. So from the 10 rapport builders we've just gone through, which of these comes most naturally to you? I mentioned at the start, some of us are just natural with our connections, natural to just connecting with people, holding that space, creating that space of psychological safety, that within the first 5 minutes, the client feels comfortable with us to have that conversation, to have that connection. Razan is saying empathy all the way. Empathy is a big one, huge, very, very important. We're going to look at the difference between empathy and sympathy and when to use empathy in coaching in a few weeks' time. It's very, very important because empathy is great, but too much empathy, we can become emotionally involved with our clients, and that can be quite heavy on us as coaches. So how do we mitigate that? How do we manage our level of empathy so we're not in a place where we collude? So thank you, Gubby, saying like and subscribe. Thank you so much, Gubby. Really appreciate your support. Thank you for being here. Thank you for everybody who's tuned in. I really appreciate it. We've got people across YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. So wherever you're watching, please feel free to like and subscribe. Razan is saying the one comes naturally to me is challenging my clients. That's brilliant. I like that. It's the most difficult that coaches can struggle with, is that ability to challenge. It was one that I really struggled with at the beginning, to be fair, because I'm quite a polite person. I didn't want to damage the rapport. I didn't want to come across too challenging or too direct. So it's something that I had to work on myself. Donna saying psychological safety comes naturally and celebrating wins. That's brilliant, Donna. Psychological, it's great that it comes naturally and celebrating wins. So I haven't talked about psychological safety. That just comes as a nutshell here, but that is a rapport builder that is very, very important. And finally, the last question is, which one of these will you take away this week and practice? Which one needs the work from you right now? Do you need to learn to challenge a bit more? Are you allowing clients just to talk and talk and talk and talk, but you're not actually challenging them and moving them forward? Are you allowing clients just to get away week in, week out with not completing their tasks, their commitments? Do you need to listen more? Do you find that you get distracted in your sessions? Are you too busy thinking about what you're going to have for dinner or what the next football match is because during the World Cup time? Is it humor? Donna's saying humor. Humor's a good one to work with. We have to be very, very careful with humor. Very, very careful with humor. Have a think. Let me know which ones you're going to practice this week. I appreciate it. And if you want to learn more, you don't want to wait till next Monday. Next Monday again, same time, 7 p.m. at UK time. We're going to be talking about the rapport breakers, 20 minutes, Coachology in 20. A little bit over again today, but I'll work to reduce my time, so I'm just taking the 20 minutes for everybody. But if you want to learn more between now and then, you can scan the QR code on the screen, and this will take you to our book. You can learn more in our Coaching Essentials book here that we have published at Coaching Minds. So take a screenshot, take a picture, scan it. And I just want to say a huge thank you to Razan, to Gubby, to Donna, to everybody who's tuned in. I really, really appreciate your engagement. I look forward to seeing you next week. We're going to look at the rapport breakers and continue this conversation forward. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a brilliant week ahead. I hope it's productive. I hope you achieve your goals, and I hope it's successful. Look forward to seeing you all very, very soon. Thank you.